Hello everybody, we are going live again. So if you don't know what time it is, you best stay tuned in because today's episode is going to be amazing. So I'm just waiting for my guest to come over. So just bear with me a few moments, people, while I wait for some other people to come into the room. Thank you so much for everyone for listening in or for tuning in at a later date. I'm not too sure. Today's episode is going to be amazing. So I really can't wait for this. I see Ben's here. Hi, Ben. Yeah, how you doing, mate? See a few faces coming in. Thanks, guys, for coming in. Today's episode, like I say, is going to be incredible. Here's my guest now, so I'm just going to wait to bring him up. I really can't wait for today's episode. It's going to be insane. So I'm just waiting for Elliot. We've got Elliot, my friend here. Elliot, you just request to join if you can. Actually, if not, I can maybe invite you. Let me see what I can do. No. Here we go. Let's see what we can do. Hey!
Hello, mate. How you doing?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Hey, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely fine.
Oh,
Yeah. All good, all good.
great
Good to see
stuff,
you.
mate. Good to see you too. So, Elliot, if anybody doesn't know, like today's episode is going to be really, really incredible because Elliot, I've heard you speak a few times now, say on different platforms, and I don't know, like something about you when you speak, Elliot. Seriously, like I love speaking myself, but when I hear you speak, like I'm so tuned in to the words that you're saying.
Really?
You see it like seriously on a different level. Like I can't stop listening. Like every time I hear you speak, I'm just like, I really don't think you know how good of a speaker you are. Seriously,
Wow. Well,
seriously.
I'll take the compliment, but thank you. Same here, my friend. I mean, you know, from your journey over the last year, I've definitely seen, you know, massive, huge growth from what you're doing, and kudos to you, and for doing these, for getting on and not just talking about it, but actually getting on and doing something as well.
Yeah, no, thank you, Elliot, so much. So, I mean, I love speaking, and I'm sure you do too. Like speaking's a skill, but listening's a skill too. So I didn't actually know. This is deadly serious. About a year ago, say a mentor of mine asked me to do
I
some.
could just bear with 1 second. There's my son, my 12-year-old, has literally just messaged saying influencer. Cheers, Kian.
Oh, that's so nice. That's so nice. Yeah, no, seriously. About 12 months ago, 13 months maybe, like a mentor of mine reached out and asked me to do some podcasting for them, for their team, and I said, yeah, that's cool. So he introduced me into something called active listening, and I didn't
Okay.
have a clue what active listening was.
Right.
So hence why I'm saying pushing myself outside of my comfort zone, not only to speak but to actively listen. Hence why I'm doing these interviews. So yeah, for
Mm.
anyone that doesn't know, I'm bringing together some of the most inspirational people that I've managed to connect with over the last year or so. Some of the healthiest, wealthiest, and happiest people. And Elliot, you're definitely one of them. So thank you so much for
Don't know
coming
about
over, my
wealthy, but
friend.
I'll go for healthy and happy.
Oh, mate, brilliant. So, I mean,
But no, listen. Thanks for the invite. Thanks for the invite, Ryan. It's an honour to be asked on, and I know you've waited a while, so hope I can deliver today. That's all. No pressure, man.
yeah, no pressure at all. It's just a conversation between two mates. We got a little bit of an audience. But Elliot, yeah, let's kick it off then. So, what I want you to start with, is for you to maybe tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, your life's journey. Maybe focus on, say, your younger years, sort of through the late teens, 20 years old.
Yeah,
Some of the challenges that you may come across,
yeah.
and just what you had to do in order to get you to where you are today.
Wow. Well, it's still a journey, right? I've only just started. The previous part was it's my apprenticeship up to date. It's been my apprenticeship of life, right? Life and business. I mean, obviously, my name's Elliot Browne. I don't have an orange background, and I'm not in London town either. So none of that works, but I still made it work, man. I mean, still made it work. Thanks, my friend, for inviting me on. Obviously, we met on Clubhouse, and a year ago, I feel a lot's changed in that year. In fact, actually, it's not just all the years beforehand. I feel like I was almost setting myself up to the past 12 months in a weird way, take on one of the biggest challenges of my life and get me to where I am now. And this journey onwards is going to be pretty interesting. Looking forward to this chapter. But if I go back, I mean, listen, Ryan, there's been a myriad of jobs, a myriad of experiences business wise. I've helped start business, launch products, and built a building which of course is going to way outlive me. So it was a block of apartments, and built a company for a client. In essence, it was almost like our business that we were running, myself and a partner of mine. And we took this business in the video games industry. And I don't play video games at all, as my son will tell you. And we took that business from 500 grand investment and literally was like, here's the money, do what you need to do in the industry. And we took that to 20 million in just under 3 years, which was a lot of years of experience, I suppose, and mistakes and challenges that sort of took me to there. So that was good. And that was a few years ago. I've had market stalls selling golf equipment, my friend, and I can't play golf. And that used to bring me in anywhere between 2 and 5 grand profit on a Saturday, which I ran for 2 or 3 years in my mid-20s, actually. And the reason I did that was to support me knocking doors, learning to sell, right? So selling water coolers while I was pissing it down with rain in the UK, not the best product, but, we still made it work. And I cut my teeth doing that. So, but before I sort of go on to that, you want to know about some of the earlier years. And that was my sort of earlier years when I decided I needed to train myself and learn literally from the ground up, right? So literally knocking doors. The reason I'd done that is I had to step away from a couple of situations. So you want me to go back to my late teens, early 20s, right? You're interested in those years, Ryan. I'm getting a feeling for this for sure. So listen, when I left school, I didn't know what I wanted to do, mate. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I know I didn't want to stay at school, and I sort of stayed on to sixth form, and they advised me to leave after about 6 months. I have no idea why. I don't think it was misbehaviour. It might have been, but they definitely advised me to leave school. I had some fun there. I even had a locker selling the usual stuff that an entrepreneur does, sweets, chocolate bars. But also, I happened to manage to get a spare key to one of the storerooms in the school. Naughty. But there was these rough books, right, that they had at school were in demand. And they were like this sort of notebooks, right? They were in massive demand. And you only got one a term. And I managed to get a stack of these things. So I used to knock these out of this locker until somebody grasped on me. How rude. And that was that got me into a bit of trouble and sort of 13, 14. But the entrepreneurialism goes way back to then. After leaving school, I wasn't sure what to do, mate. I really wasn't sure where to go, what to do. Nearly joined the RAF, believe it or not. We don't talk about that a lot. I nearly joined the RAF as an engineer. That wasn't really for me. And then, believe it or not, at 18, I went to Burton College and started a BTEC National in Business and Finance. Wow. Let me think about this for a minute. I wonder where I would have been if I'd seen that through. I could have maybe skipped 20 years of shit. But I decided I didn't enjoy doing that, and ended up getting a part-time job in a bar. I ended up moving to Spain and took sort of that with me. I ended up managing a bar in the UK at 18, 19. Went to Spain and ran a bar there as well, down in Fuengirola. The Costa del Sol, aka Costa del Crime. And I think we all know that because we've all seen all the British gangster films, right? Well, dare I say, within a few months of being down there, it was very easy to be a bit of a naughty boy back in the day. And so I did. We were partying all the time, going out, running a bar. And of course, who are you going to meet? You're going to meet all the bad boys, aren't you? That are already clubbing, are already going to the bars and doing all the things that you shouldn't be doing. And so I sort of got involved in this sort of life that took me down a different path. It got me, put it this way, let's be subtle how I put this across. I ended up spending some time at His Majesty's service, or whatever you call it, basically. So I ended up spending a little bit of time in Spain for doing some naughty stuff. And I got out. And that was like sort of, I don't know why, but I slipped straight back into that sort of naughty life. So I'm 19 years old at the time. No, 20, 21, 20, 20, 20 years, 21 years old. 95. So 95 came alive. It was 93 I got free. 94 was a bit of a bore. 95 came alive. That was an interesting year. We had an apartment, ended up having an apartment and a villa at the same time in Spain. I had a 525i BMW. I thought I was Charlie Big Potatoes, to be honest. And I was a bit of a wannabe gangster, Ryan. I definitely was. And over that year, when I was 21, I never left home without having a grand in my bum bag, basically. Bum bags were in then, and they're back out again now. We just wear them across the chest these days, right? So I ended up getting involved with a few bits and pieces, sort of import-export, let's put it that way, coming back to the UK, but not necessarily legal products, all right? I'm trying to be PG at the same time here, as you can maybe tell, Ryan. And one journey driving back from Spain all the way back to the UK, we were driving up through Spain all the way. You could almost see like 4 seasons in a day sometimes if you do it at the right time of year. And it's February, so actually the weather was pretty good down south coast of Spain. Driving back to the UK, and as we come up through Spain, it starts to get a bit colder. Come through the Zaragoza desert up to the Pyrenees, and there's been a snowstorm. So the normal frontier that we'd get through, we had some cigarettes in the back and bits and pieces like that. We had to the border was closed up in the mountains, and because that was closed, it was like late at night. We ended up staying in this hotel, and I was like said to my girlfriend at the time, I think we should go skiing for a couple of days or do something up here, like just stay around there. So we ended up staying overnight and getting up the next day. And when I got up the next day, Ryan, we're sitting at breakfast, and I had a bit of a strange feeling, a bit of a weird feeling, sort of like a gut instinct. I got a gut instinct, sort of low down feeling, and I was like, if we drive today, I've got a feeling I'm going to get into trouble. And what happened was we ended up driving through anyway, and ended up getting arrested as we got to the border, because they'd found something in the vehicle that shouldn't have been there, Ryan. And it doesn't matter what it is, because I don't think that's the purpose of the reason what happened. But what happened was me and my partner both ended up doing some forced rest time in France, and that was for 27 months. Now I remembered sitting at breakfast and saying this is going to be my last breakfast in freedom, and it was. Now, if I wind back a little bit and I go back to maybe sort of a year or two before that, I'd been down in Spain, and I'd been down there about a month. And when I was nearly ran out of money, my father said to me, he said, if you get any trouble at all, let me know, get some money down to just tide you by. And we've been looking for jobs. We've done a bit of bar work and stuff, and we weren't yet going to get paid. So I just needed, like, literally at the time, it was like probably £200, maybe the equivalent to £200. Ended up speaking to him on the phone, and ended up going into one and screaming and shouting, and it was just not making much sense at all. And I said, you said you'd help me out, and he basically was pretty well sort of calling me all sorts of names, which was pretty standard, to be fair, from many years before. But that's another story. And what happened was he said he wouldn't help me. So that day, I had a choice. If he'd have helped me, I would have been okay, because actually we would have been working to the bar, would have done me to the next month, but I had to quickly make some money. And actually, what turned out was that the decision I made, and the impulsive decision I made, due to actually outside circumstances that had created that situation. Hey, trust me, I put myself there, right? This is no blame on anybody. This is where my brain works, and this is where years later I've understood why certain decisions were made. And I think a lot of people need to understand this as well. There I am, and he said no, and I had to make a decision, and that decision took me on a different path. That decision, in essence, took me on a path which gave me a forced rest in Spain for 7.5 months. That then obviously got me into a situation because of a catalyst of other events and things that happen, and actually a growth mindset and an entrepreneurialism just probably with the wrong products. But it had taken me on this path, and I still had a growth mindset. It was we were actually scaling of quite a naughty business. Not that naughty, you know. People smoke it all the time these days, you know. So I don't need to, you know, say necessarily what it is, but you know, everybody smokes this stuff now. And back then, you know, obviously it wasn't legal. So I'd gone down his path, and so I sort of almost like it was like a rewind back to this moment. And I was like, that just changed everything for me. You know, that point there changed my path, my direction. And it's very easy to do that. We get paths, right, where we get to a T-junction, right? And sometimes things that we are outside our power, there's opportunities available, and they're the best opportunities available to you right then. And if you're right up against it, and you're possibly going to be on the street, or you're possibly going to, something else could happen, or possibly something worse could happen, I don't know, because your brain isn't necessarily going to think as clearly as it should do, because you're in a particular sort of almost like an emotional state as well. And that hides that gut instinct sometimes, that feeling, that anxiety feeling, which I now realise is anxiety. I never did, now I do now, never realised back then. It stifles that feeling. So you make ill-fated decisions. And some of those can end catastrophically. So for some people, I just lost, you know, a bit of freedom. You know, I didn't lose my life, I didn't lose a limb, I didn't lose an arm. So I'm luckier than many, but I did lose that. And I learned a lot from it. And so when you go back to when that happened, I had to take a real long, hard look at myself and think, listen, a career criminal really isn't my shizzle, is it? It's not working for me, this stuff. So, you know, bed down, learn, understand yourself, and just get on with it. And I did. And so what happened after that is that I really needed to learn business. Now, there's a family business I could come out to, although there were some strange sort of relationships after my situation. Not because of me, actually, believe it or not, but that's a whole other story. And so when I did, I had to look at opportunities that weren't going to take me back to the same path. Now, years later, in fact, in the last 12 months, I've realised I've got ADHD. I haven't been diagnosed yet. I haven't done plenty of tests. I know plenty of people with ADHD coaches, and other people who have pretty well said, I have no idea how the hell you did not realise this before. And I think there's a lot of decisions that have been made along the years that are definitely been because I've gone from an impulse. I'm chasing some sort of a buzz at times. The ADHD brain is looking for a release of endorphins, right? It's looking for something that's going to challenge it as well. I talk about it like a nit because it almost is like that now. When you've got absolute clarity, which is difficult at times, you get hyper-focused. And that's what you focus on, and you'll do your very best at it. In fact, you'll probably do better than most people when you do it. So I had that ability to do those things as I started selling and then going through business and then just hitting sales and doing that really well. But I almost had to, in the background, hide that shit that had gone on for years, because who wants to talk about that? It's a different world right now, isn't it? It's a different world. We could talk about these things because it's good to do so. In fact, you know, people love the fact that I'm open and honest about talking about certain things. And so it's really interesting that if I'd have known that I had something like ADHD, if I'd have had people that we could talk to about that and be as open as we are now and have these conversations and talk to people that also not necessarily suffer with it, but have actually found a way of that being a superpower, you can really focus that. But I didn't. I kept trying different things and learning more and more stuff, you know, and even going back to the naughty stuff, Ryan, I learned a lot of shit from that. There's a lot of trust things there. There's a lot of business elements to it. You know, supply and demand, obvs. You know, you know, you have to have a structure. You have to have a supply. You know, you have to have the customers. You have to have, you know, the right products. You've got to deal with the right people. It's business, right? It's generally business. I mean, some of the biggest businesses are set up like that, and many people come through it, like rappers, for example. that then become some of the world's biggest businessmen. 50 Cent, Snoop Dogg, people like that, all have become huge stars. Snoop Dogg maybe not, but 50 Cent definitely, big gangster. Snoop maybe not so in the same way that we maybe see 50 Cent, but you understand where I'm getting at. And so, there is massive business elements in that. So there's definitely a brain here for that. I just have taken a long time to figure that out, my friend.
Wow. Elliot, mate, seriously, thank you so much. And again, just going back to what I said at the start, like, I love when you share that. I'm so tuned in, and I'm sure the people that have been watching have been too. So I just want to start by saying thank you so much for sharing your amazing journey. And it's so inspiring. So like, what I can take away from that, like you just mentioned there, without realizing at the time, there was so much that you learned in that specific situation. You learned business from, say, selling, supplying, and trading, selling the wrong things, but you actually learn business, like business 101. And like,
absolutely.
I've seen like many of these great entrepreneurs, they say, like, I can't even remember who it was. It could have been like Elon Musk or something. It said like, people that sell these types of products, which aren't necessarily legal, are some of the greatest business men and women in the world, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, like,
just don't listen. Just don't get caught. No, I'm not. I'm not condoning it. But do you know the interesting thing is though, you look back to when I was like 18. In fact, on my 18th birthday, I was due to go to college to Jesus, I haven't thought about this for years. To go to college to do the course, basically the BTEC National in business and finance. And I was like, my 18th birthday. What? Yeah, I'm going down the bar, and I binned it off that night, and that was it. Now, that was because I was chasing. I wanted to go out and get hammered on my 18th and go and enjoy myself, When I go and sit in a class, and it will have to be honest with you, the teacher was really boring anyway, which doesn't really help a lot of subjects, to be fair, does it? You've got to keep people's interest, particularly people like me. And I don't know about yourself, Ryan, but lots of creatives, a lot of people with that sort of outside thinking, that different way of thinking. We were the disruptors at school. We were the ones the teachers actually really liked. Years later, they're the ones that go, yeah, we quite enjoyed you. You're a bit different from everybody else, But at school, you're getting a bollocking, or a rubber thrown at you, or something like that. But yeah, had that been different, you're right. I mean, there was definitely, a want to do something outside of the norm. And so, yeah, I mean, who knows? Obviously, sliding doors and all that, but yeah, it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot of hard lessons. I learned more about myself. I became very self-aware, which you do. I've never called it paranoia unless you're on drugs, basically. Then you get paranoid sometimes, but that's that. But it's a heightened state of awareness. You get a heightened state of awareness when you're in that sort of business. And it's funny that years later, I didn't listen to my gut instinct a couple of other times. And I've spoken about this openly, about gut instinct, right? And I want anybody that's listening to this, Jesus, you need to trust this. You need to trust your gut instinct. Yeah, there's a thing called the vagus nerve, which goes from your brain to your stomach. And the reason we get that is that's your warning signal. That the gut instinct is a warning signal to let you know that something's not right. Right? It's actually probably slightly more intelligent than your brain. Your brain tends to take some emotions and things like that, which can make the wrong decisions, particularly when it comes to ADHD. And I know a lot of business people that have had lots of varied jobs and done lots of different things, had quite naughty backgrounds as well, and are all very similar, but they're very, very successful in their own right because they managed to focus it in the right direction. So I went off track a little bit there, I think, but yeah, I'm not quite sure where I was going with that. Where was I going with that, Ryan? Any idea?
There is no track, but you make your own track in life. So no, it was good. I enjoyed that. So yeah, what I want to mention there actually, mate, is you say about trusting your instincts or your intuition, your gut. Like I'm a big believer in trusting my gut. Like I believe like the gut knows what the brain hasn't already figured out yet. So I don't know if you want to carry on about the gut there.
Yes. So what I was going to say was that it's that is the warning signal you should have, and I have spoken about this. I spoke about this quite a lot because there's a point last year where I started reflecting a lot, and I always have looked back. I'm not massively. I'm very much about looking forward. But there's certain things you reflect on. But last year made me think about a lot of things. Pete Cohen made me think about something and made me look at myself and in a really good way. And I could see these snapshots in time, just like that breakfast that morning, with the snow all around me, and I'm sat there. It's a dining room. It's a big dining room. There's like not very many people in there. It's a big snow blizzard. I don't know why, because it was a ski resort, which is bizarre. And I remember this really clearly. And I remember all the sort of the napkins and everything laid out, and the view of the mountains and the car park and everything in the vehicle. And I remember really clearly when I thought that, just like I have a snapshot of when I made a decision to invest in a business in 2017 that I knew something was wrong with, but there was part of me going, yeah, but I haven't done this before. I've not invested in something like this. It's tech. I wanted to get into tech for a while. My head's going, I get all excited. I made the decision, but my gut instinct was telling me there's something wrong with this guy. He's a wrong 'un. There's something wrong with him. And although the due diligence has stood up, this is going to go tits. And within 7 months, there's 2 or 3 people trying to get their money back, and he'd pretty well spent it all on nothing. I'd been India twice, and it just turned out to be an absolute mess. And I should have gone with that then. So I cannot tell anybody strongly enough to definitely feel and understand when that gut instinct is kicking in to give us a warning for sure.
Yeah, again, mate, like, our brain literally lies to us. Like, our brain just wants to keep us safe, so it doesn't always tell us the truth, right? Like, it's always going to talk us round or convince ourselves that, yeah, it's all okay. Like, our brain's just like, yeah, it's okay, go with that. But the gut is like screaming those warning signals, like, no. But quite often we do convince ourselves to just go with something, whether it's, say, what you was doing then, or it could be even, like, say, for instance, a relationship. Like, everyone's been in, say, a relationship, or the majority of people watching this have been, let's say, in a relationship, and the warning signals are there saying, no, get out, or move on, or just don't do what you're going to do now. But quite often the brain is just convincing us, yeah, it's going to be okay. And we quite often say, why didn't we just listen to our gut feeling in the first place?
Yeah.
But,
and we've heard it for years, right? But I think we talk about it in a more serious way now. I mean, to the point where, even companies are sort of getting people to try and think in a different way, rather than what we're originally taught. There's far smarter ways of doing things these days. If we trust and we know ourselves, and we're confident in ourselves, we can make way better decisions. That's for sure.
Yeah, 100%, mate. So I want to ask you then a couple of things about, say, that whole situation.
Yeah.
So I wanted to knock it back a step or two. And you mentioned at the very start, when you went to Spain, you said you was in that, say, surroundings, right? The clubs, you had a club, you had a villa, you had the cars and all that stuff. And you said, like, you thought you was this gangster, wannabe gangster, right?
Yeah, so, I was a wannabe gangster.
So it's almost like a all for show sort of thing. And even now, like, we're living in this day and age where people, all of a sudden, when they want to be crypto billionaires, right? That's like the Insta world we're living in nowadays.
Yeah.
So for anyone listening then, how important would you say then, 2 things here, how important would you say that your surroundings are in life, as in the people that you surround yourself? Mm-hmm. And number 2, how important would you say it is to have delayed gratification rather than instant gratification?
Good questions. Listen, you've definitely got to trust the people around you. Surrounding yourself with the right people is key. The years that I've surrounded myself with the wrong people, the wrong things have gone wrong. The years that I've surrounded myself or rubbed shoulders with the right people, whether I've joined a company and I was with a company called Neopost for like 3 years, absolutely smashed that, because I did really well. And I don't blow my own trumpet here, although I would if I could. But yeah, so if I was there for a few years, and so because I got to know the manager and the directors and stuff like that, and then I used to be in the sort of top team. We used to go out and things like that. We're personable. We tend to be personable people as sort of outgoing entrepreneurs, sort of introvert extrovert sort of thing. I don't know that I'm necessarily introverted, although some would probably say different when they know me at times. And I think you've definitely got to have the right people around you, whatever environment you're in. Whether you work for a company, you've got to really get to know the right people in the company, because when things get difficult or something happens, if you know people and they know you, then there's less issue because you can talk about it. If you just get on, sort of just put your head down and just get on with life, that doesn't really work. Although putting your head above the parapet, it can get it shot off as well, of course. So it's a difficult balance, but or blend. But you definitely need to get to know the right people, for sure. Surrounding yourself with the right people, going out with the right people. And I mean, Clubhouse has been incredible to bring so many people together from all over the world, and now be surrounded every corner of the globe, if you're a flat earther, with the right people, right? And we've definitely got to do that. I spent years doing international business, Ryan, so it was always key having the right people around me, making sure I had the right suppliers, making sure I had the right relationships, making sure you keep people informed, all of that stuff, just in like in any transaction, in any business, in any relationship, really. Blatant honesty, upfront, no bullshit honesty, that some people will respect but not like, and other people will respect and like. You're never going to like everybody. It's important to have that, and I think I'd rather have people not like me and respect me for my honesty than the other way around. What'd you say about
that? Oh man, like 100%. Like we're living in this age now where I was actually speaking to my friend about this a moment ago, just before I come on this, and we're living in a world where we're putting on this, say, mask or this character. Like we're living this character of a life because we're doing and saying stuff that we think other people want to hear or what other people want us to look like, rather than just being ourselves. Like, I love my quotes, right? I come up with this quote which says, "We're all born ourselves, but most die someone else." And it's so true. Like we're living in this society where we feel the need to have to say, be this thing, this person that does this and says this and acts this way. But if you're not that person, you're actually lying to yourself, and you're never going to live a truly happy and fulfilled life because you're putting on this false character. You know what I mean?
Oh, mate, I can't do that. I mean, it makes me. People used to talk about faking it till we make it, and I've mentioned this loads of times. It's sort of, I feel like I've said it so many times, but of course, not everybody will have heard us talk all the time on Clubhouse. So, but the faking it till you make it thing, that shit doesn't work for me, man. It just doesn't work for me. I can't do it. I feel very uncomfortable. I took coaching a few years ago, and it was like, right, there's this sort of methodology, and you do this, and you're going to do that, and you're like that, and I'm like, yeah, I could do that, but it's bullshit, and it's just not what I would do, and I can't tell somebody to do that because that's not what I've done. I've done all of these other things, and that's may well work for some people, and of course it has, but you can only be you. And I think on Clubhouse that's definitely become hugely apparent when I genuinely openly talk about a lot of the challenges that I've had and the things I've had to overcome, and I'm still doing it now. Like fucking hell, excuse my French. It's like. I've got some of the biggest challenges hanging around my neck right now, and actually I'm all right with it, and it is a big challenge because I know this next chapter is going to be the biggest one yet.
Yeah, I love that, and what made me laugh again, because like I said, I was just speaking to my friend a moment ago, and we mentioned this. You just said "fucking hell," whatever you just said. You said, "Excuse my French." Like this is what I realised over the last, say, 6 months, and I've adjusted myself, right? Because at the start, when I started to share my message online, social media, I didn't really want to swear because I was just like, oh no, people won't like that. I'll look like this thing, like because I swear.
Yeah.
Everybody fucking swears. I'm telling you, even probably the Queen swears. Like everybody swears.
Does.
If someone says they don't swear, they're lying. So just be yourself. If you don't swear, you're not being your true, authentic self. And swearing. It's just a noise that comes out of your mouth. Like these noises that I'm saying now. Yeah. The only difference is that you, as say, the person that's receiving that swear word, have given that swear word a meaning. I could say fucking hell, and it could be like, oh my God, I've just seen like the most amazing thing ever. I'm so happy. Or it could be like, I bumped my foot and it really hurts. Like,
absolutely.
Well, the meaning that person gives to it, right?
And you're right, because how many situations do we get into where the person you might be your partner or family member or whatever, you could swear normally, but then suddenly it gets a heated conversation and use the same words. And I do this regularly because I swear a lot, right? Like I've got a potty mouth. But it's funny how that suddenly gets taken out of context in another situation, I'm like, I'm not being funny, but I said way worse words yesterday to you. How is that one bad right now? But yeah, we do. That's all part and parcel of being humans and being touchy at times, because I never am, of course. No, yeah, whatever.
But again, it's just about being your true, authentic self. And like I say, I like a swear word now and again. I'm not saying like come online and just start swearing your head off, or in the wrong environments or the wrong situations. Like, you wouldn't go to a funeral and just start swearing, right?
No,
but
well, it depends. An Irish one, you would. An Irish one, you definitely would.
Yeah, of course. No, but again, I feel like a swear word sometimes emphasises.
Listen, we're
how you feel.
People.
Yeah, being passionate. Yeah, exactly.
Passionate. I've always said that. I swear like poetry.
Yeah, I love that. So I want to ask you again what I mentioned a minute ago.
Gonna go off track?
No, not really, because there is no track. Like, we make our own track in life. Make your own path in life. But yeah, that's good. So what I wanted to go back to then was about the difference between that, say, instant and that delayed gratification.
You're absolutely right. Well done for bringing it back round, Ryan. Listen. There is no instant gratification. I don't. The only instant gratification is alcohol, which is pretty instant, or what they're legalizing these days would be a smoke, marijuana, maybe something like that, something along those lines. As I say, I'm not condoning anything, but shit, we all do this stuff, right? And millions and billions of people do. But that's your instant gratification. And funny enough, sometimes. This is something I learned last year, actually. And somebody made a comment to me about certain things that I've done in life and what the decisions I've made. It's a little bit like when you take something, a drug, for example, and you do get that high, and you're chasing that, and genuinely there's that actually makes you make the wrong decision sometimes. And if anybody listens to this you ever see this years to come, whatever. If that's you and you feel like you're missing something out, which is why you're making decisions to do things, but it's not going right, you need to step back and have a look at what you're doing, why you're doing those things, try to understand yourself, reflect on yourself, write down things necessarily or words that make you want to do something different, and go against maybe your gut instinct and things like that, because I think we need to know ourselves a little bit better. So instant gratification isn't there. You need to work towards it. You get gratification as you go. And the closer you get towards the goal and the success and the things that you want, whether that be time with your friends and family, whether it's just going out somewhere, whatever it is that you want, cars or watches or a tent and you're going to go camping, I don't know, whatever the hell it is, and you just go and get it. There's going to be that moment, and then you use it, and then you're still working towards everything. I think you need to understand that. It's not a sprint, for example. It is a marathon, right? Just getting that sprint to the end, you're going to get there and go, right, is that it? Right, okay. So you're always working towards something. So yeah, go for the longer gain, the longer gratification. Long term is far more rewarding. I've got there a couple of times, not to exactly where I want to, but I have a feeling the next chapter is going to get me closer still. So I'm still learning the journey. I'm still learning the game.
Yeah, man, I love that. And like, we all know, like we've heard this one, right? The reward is the journey and not the destination. Like for me, like let's talk about success. Success is subjective, but success for me is a feeling that comes as a byproduct from moving closer to a desired destination on a daily basis. So that's the reward, as in, right, I'm moving that step closer to this goal that I've got in the future. But I have this, say, big goal, this big vision, and that big goal is almost like the horizon. Like the closer that I move to it, the further that it gets away. So that's what keeps me going, because if we ever say get to that goal, that's it. Like, it's the end of our journey, right? Because we've got nothing to go towards. So we always need to keep upgrading our goals. Like, we should never really reach our big goal. Of course, like, we need these little mini milestones along the way to hit these smaller goals, but we need this big vision, this big goal, and we may never even get close or even reach that goal. But I believe that gives you something to wake up each morning to say, right, I'm going to go towards that.
Absolutely. And listen, I mean, visualization is something I talk about a lot. And, what you're saying there about, your goals and visualizing things, and I think you firmly have to visualize something so much that it's in your mind's eye. And if you can do that, you can get there. You know, that's what a lot of people would do. Some of the most successful people there's ever been have used visualization tools. I mean, you know, we talk about maybe creating a board where you've got pictures of whatever it is that you've got on there, but you've got to reverse engineer it, right? You've got to work it back. And, you know, yeah, that might be the ultimate goal right now, which things change because, you know, that BMW you wanted may well be, you know, an electric car by the time you get there, you know, but you've got something to work towards, you know, electric supercar or whatever, you know what I'm trying to get at. But, I was just thinking about something I did years ago when I reverse engineered something and I'd set a BMW up as it. So that's why I use that. But then you've got to set like mini goals, right? You've got to, and that in essence is the structure of getting from here to there. But you've got to backpedal. You've got to reverse engineer if you really want to get to where you get to, because otherwise, particularly people like with a brain like mine, which is a little bit messed up due to, you know, ADHD and probably never realized it before. So that's made life difficult at times. But you know, there's worse people on the planet. But getting to there, when you set those little ones, they're far more achievable, and within no time at all, they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think if you keep going, that's when it works. The minute you get complacent and stop, that's when it starts falling apart. Never get complacent. Never get complacent.
Yeah, I love that, and it's like the compound effect, right? Like it's these small wins that we get on a frequent basis that compound and stack on top of each other to then build to the point where we're, say, getting closer and closer and closer to that big vision and goal, say, on a frequent basis. So, yeah, no, sound advice there, my friend. So, Elliot, as we sort of start wrapping this up now,
yeah,
I've got 5 quick questions that I want to blast through.
Oh, go on then.
Right, so here we go. So, number 1, what is the best piece of advice that you have ever received and why?
Pete Cohen last year, and I've said this many times, maybe ask myself about my why. Why am I doing this? And I was walking on a street in London, actually, I take my son to football, and I still remember where I was then. Funny, these moments in time. And I was like, I don't know, I've not really asked. And I got a bit uncomfortable. And he said, ask yourself this, and I want you to come back to me, and we want to talk about this. And that was it. That's the best piece of advice. He told me to ask myself. But now it sounds like the most simple question anybody can ask. And for me, I'd never really thought about it before. And it got me to ask. And it's taken me now on a path where I think all of that stuff that I've told you about, and there's, trust me, a whole ton more, has taught me enough that furnishes me with enough knowledge to be able to help more than your average amount of people. And so everything I've done so far has been, as I said, my apprenticeship. So he's helped me to realize my why, and my why was definitely to find something through all of that, stumble across some tools that I could use to help people, and now create something that is already helping people, and I haven't even done a great deal with it yet. So that has been the best advice, just asking me to ask myself why. Wow.
Yeah, mate, that's like one of the biggest questions you could ever ask yourself. Like, why, right? But also, like, what I like what you mentioned there about how you learn, say, through adversity, you learn, say, many tools that you can now use to help other people. And there's a quote, and it says something like, one day you will tell your story of how you got through what you've been through, and it will be used as somebody else's survival guide. So, like, you've learned so much through that process of what you've been through in your life, and now you can use that structure to help other people, say, get closer to where they want to be in their life too. So, yeah, the next question would be then the opposite to that. What is the worst piece of advice you have ever received and acted on, and what was the result?
Depends which way you look at it, to be fair. If I was talking in the last 5 years, I would say the worst piece of advice was listening to a friend of mine who said, this guy I know, who I've known his family for years, has got this incredible idea. I think you'd really like to talk to him. This is just as I'd had one of my bigger years, basically, and earned a reasonable amount of money in through 2015, 2016, so 2016, 2017. To the tune, I then lost another 70 grand through a 10, 20 grand party to launch a product. That was in essence a bit of a catalyst. That was the start of a few catalysts that have made finances hugely, hugely difficult over the last 3 or 4 years, for sure. So that wasn't the best advice. Don't speak to him very much now, funnily enough. Not his fault, really, but it was still my decision. And years before that was... I think we'll stick with that one. We'll stick with that one for now.
Yeah, again, does say that instant gratification tie into the decision you made as well?
Listen, it wasn't. I was finding it painful to transfer the money over anyway because my gut was telling me that something wasn't quite right. So it was a bit of a weird transaction. I was excited to start off with, but there wasn't. I don't know what that was about. That was having a midlife crisis. Let's just go with that one.
I like that. So the next question then would be, I believe life is about, say, learning and progressing and moving forward. But an even bigger part about life is unlearning a lot of the sort of shit that we've been taught or those beliefs that we've been pushed onto us from childhood. So what would say maybe the biggest thing that you had to unlearn whilst you was growing up?
I've how not to do stuff is something I speak about a lot, right? And I've learnt, the hardest lessons have been the best lessons. I think when I was younger, I started seeing some untruths coming from probably both parents, if I'm perfectly honest with you. And that is something that never sat very well with me. But you do that when you're younger. You tell sort of a few lies and you hide things. Ultimately, you just get into more trouble, right? The more lies you tell, the more things that you say that are untruths, you have to cover them up. And I'm not being funny. You've got to have a bloody good memory to do that stuff. And let's face it, lots of people lie, right? Lots of people lie. In fact, most people do. Very few people that don't. I almost can't. It just doesn't sit well with me. And it's much easier to tell the truth. So I realised that in my 20s. In fact, I was even honest about what I was doing to my parents before things happened. In France and stuff like that. In my early 20s, I was honest with them because I was like, if anything ever happens, the last thing I'd want is for them to say that I lied to them. But of course, those people then lie to other people, and so you still get you still get seen that you were not truthful, but that's because other people still do. Other people need to cover things up. I don't know why humans have this need to do stuff like that, but so I think one of the biggest lessons was not lying because it stands you in good stead later on.
Wow, Matt, that is such a great response, because like you mentioned, like everyone say lies, everyone makes up these lies, but quite often they say lying to prevent somebody else from experience pain, but it's gonna hurt them even more down the line when they actually do find the truth out, right? Yeah,
very much so. Blatant honesty. If humans were blatantly honest, it would be a far easier planet to live on. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's so true. And there's a quote that says honesty is the best policy, but I say no to that. I say honesty is the only policy.
I like that, Ryan. Yeah, I knew you'd find a twist.
Cheers, my friend. Right. So the next question would be, Elliot, what is the greatest lesson that you have learned from your most painful life experience?
I mean, obviously going away for 27 months. There would be some big lessons in there. You've got to have real faith. I mean, you're locked into a place, but you're very lonely as well. You're isolated, but you're surrounded by people. You've really got to understand yourself not to let that get to you. And I think it's funny when I look back, because it's like looking back at a film. It's like looking back at somebody else's life. It's almost like, well, how could I have done that? But I'm thankful and grateful every day, because whatever shit gets thrown at me, whatever happens, whatever financial problems there are, you're only a number and a name on a computer system. Whatever issues there are, the world is going to carry on spinning, and everybody else is going to carry on doing their own shit, right? Everybody's little pockets of lives, bubbles of lives going on around you. You have no idea what they're doing. And so I think I think you've just got to be true to yourself, my friend.
Yeah, again, like, you need to be true to yourself, because although, again, back to lies and all this sort of stuff, you need to be true to yourself in life, because other people might say, see the bullshit that you're telling other people, but you're always listening. Like, you inside here, like this, it knows when you're not being true to yourself, and you're never going to be happy. You're never going to be truly happy or fulfilled, because you know, like you inside here, because like this is just a shell, you in there knows that you're lying to yourself. So never bullshit yourself.
Yeah.
Just stay true.
Yeah, stay true. But I think the biggest thing is that we've all got options, right? And when you lose the options and you lose any sense of freedom, you have more respect for it, I think. And I did anyway. So my biggest lesson came from respect for freedom. And I still celebrate the day I got out every year, and think about it, because I will never forget the day, and I'll never forget how I thought, how I have to change my life, because this is not what I'm going to carry on doing.
Wow, man. Again, like, I can only just imagine, and I'm sure people watching feel the same way. So no, it just almost goes back to gratitude, right? Like being grateful for freedom. Like that's what everyone wants in life, freedom.
You forget, listen, you forget sometimes. You take everything for granted. We all do, right? Just life. You know, rarely do we feel gratitude all the time. Anybody that does, I mean, they must be leading a very different mindset life than many of us. But I think we've got to be grateful. We've got to be grateful for freedom. We've got to be grateful for everything we have, for sure. And the more gratitude I have, the easier things seem to be to make decisions out of as well these days, which, I'm 47, 48 this year. What? And, you know, still learning, you know, as I said, genuinely, I feel like I've just started life.
Oh, brilliant, man. So final question, Elliot.
Go on.
So we sort of wrap this up.
Yeah.
Knowing what you know now, what one piece of advice would you give to your 20-year-old self?
Haha. Trust your gut instinct. Trust your gut instinct. All of the things that have gone wrong is when I've gone against it. And I won't be doing that anymore. So, that will be it. I think, wow, if somebody had told me that and explained what that feeling was and what that was about, then belief in yourself and trust your gut instinct.
Wow, powerful, so powerful. So, Elliot, thank you so much for coming on. I know we've
My
got a few
pleasure.
people here, and I've really enjoyed this episode, and I'm sure many people can take a lot away from this. Elliot, for anyone that wants to reach out to you or follow your journey, what's the best way for somebody to connect with you?
Oh, with some, I'm at the moment, I'm going to be changing this, but at the moment it's host_Elliot Browne, obviously, here on Instagram. I'm on Facebook, Elliot Browne, LinkedIn, and Clubhouse, of course, if anybody's on Clubhouse. But yeah, you can catch me there. On my Instagram is Linktree, so you can go and see everything else on there. But yeah, going to be doing more of these. I mean, you've sort of got me back into this. I mean, I was doing podcasts, a couple of years ago. In fact, believe it or not, I did nearly 100 or so podcasts in a year. Wow. And I've done nothing for the last 2. Again, ADHD brain. I've done that. I've figured it out. Now I'm going to wait until I've got to the right time to do the right show. But we're definitely getting you on that when I do, Ryan.
Oh, Elliot, thank you so much. And everybody that's come through the room today and listened in, thank you, everybody, for coming on. Elliot, my friend, thanks again. And everybody, thank you so much.
Thanks, Ryan.
And we'll see you on the other side.
Yeah, cheers. Take it easy. Cheers, man.
Cheers,
bye-bye.
Cheers, bye-bye. Bye.